Well, hello, ladies study group. I am so excited to be speaking with you all. I was meant to come to Kolkata. My Choto Balar Bondhu Diya Jaiswal and I have been talking about this for a while, an in-person visit, but alas, the pandemic doesn't matter. It's still going to be awesome on Zoom. See you guys soon.
काली आंखों वाली सावली सी लड़की, भोली भाली बावरी सी लड़की, सारा गांव नंगे पांव घुमा करती है वो भोली भोली प्यारी सी लड़की। पैरों के निशान है गुलाबी आसमां पे, रेनबो के मका पर, वहीं कहीं सोती है वो सावली सी लड़की तारों के जहां पर। मौसम जैसे रंग बदल ले पंछी सारे when they fly, रंग शराबी लाल आंखें पिंक गुलाबी स्काई।
Countdown has begun. I hope you've marked your calendars. I've pulled out precious time from my next film to do this, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I need you there to make it good. All right then, see you. Bye.
Good evening, and on behalf of the Ladies Study Group in Kolkata, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this very special session today. Movies and films are watched by everyone, be it on the television, social media, or cinema. The film industry is arguably one of the most impactful sectors in modern society, and films of any genre, from documentary to drama, have a dramatic impact on real life. Sitcoms and comedy shows make us laugh. Psychological thrillers help us to see the world from an improved perspective. And historical films help us understand where we've come from as a people. Every video and every film reflects society and transforms opinions. Chances are excellent that you have seen at least one film, if not more, that has changed the landscape of your own belief system, even if you're not aware of it. And at the helm of this magic is the filmmaker, man or woman. Women have been directing films from the beginning of cinema. Alice Guy is credited with directing one of the world's first narrative films in 1896. And closer home, Fatma Begum, who was the star of silent films in India, is credited with being the first woman director in India. And her first film as a director was in 1926, Bulbul-e Paristan. Since then, there are many noteworthy female directors who have innovated and pushed boundaries in some way or the other with their groundbreaking work. Our guest today sits at the very front of this wave of female filmmakers who have completely redefined cinema, and it is my honor to welcome Shonali Bose to our screens. Can we have you on screen, Shonali? Welcome, Shonali.
Hi, Diya.
Hi, thank you for your time. I know how busy you've been. We are really grateful for this opportunity, and I hope you're all set.
I'm very excited, as you know, to be doing this with the ladies study group. I've been hearing about this group all year from you.
Yes, that's true. And I want to add about Shonali. She is a feminist, a mother, a daughter, and a filmmaker. She is a woman like no other. A life filled with experiences and epiphanies She shares reflections of her own life and relationships through her beautiful films like Amu in 2005, Margarita with a Straw in 2014, and more recently, The Sky is Pink in 2019. A daughter who faced the loss of a mother at a young age, and a mother who has faced the unimaginable loss of a son. Shonali sees death in a wonderful new light, celebrating the life of a human being. From speaking up against misogyny and patriarchy to living by example to show us the path to a happy ending. And the way to do that is to raise a toast to yourself. Shonali is the embodiment of love, life, margaritas, and pink skies. And on a personal note, Shonali and me have been together since nursery at Loreto House in Kolkata. She is a dear childhood friend, remains a very close friend, and is a friend who I am so proud to claim as one of my own. And I do hope I can do justice today to sharing her magic with all of you. So, Shonali, let's begin with the chronological walk and start with your early years. I know everything about you, of course, but I want to share with our viewers today what was childhood like. I know you grew up in Kolkata. So, what was that, Shonali, like?
Gosh, Kolkata is sort of the bedrock of who I am. I feel like from saying Lenin Mama Zindabad when I was 2 years old, because I was very influenced by my Mashi, Brinda Karat, who lived with us. So from that whole revolutionary spirit that is part of me, and the kind of, women that I saw in Kolkata, my mother's friends and everybody there, that influence, our teachers, like the kind of women Kolkata has, like really. To, just a deep love and acceptance that I had through my childhood. Like, again, like so many Mashis who might be listening. I know Gayatri Bose's mother is there listening. All my friends' mothers, your mom, Mrs. Chinoy. I think I was lucky as a child that I got a lot of affirmation from people who were in, not relatives of mine. Like affirmation that gave me immense self-esteem and confidence as a young woman to be myself and to just shine. So I really, all those blessings come from my Calcutta childhood. It was a very, very blessed childhood.
So was movies and theater always something that you wanted to do? Or I remember we did this play in class 3, and then of course in class 5 where you were Joe in Little Women, am I right? I still
And I
remember
directed
that. You directed it also, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So you
I
always
love
had this gene.
I had acting as a gene, Diya. So I did, yeah. And I guess, I loved acting, and I didn't ever dream I would be a director. So I did theater through school. Then, in college, which was not in Kolkata. So in Sanar, where I went to boarding school, I was the lead Meera in Meerabai, which was like really, really a big, big performance for Sanar to put up. And then in Miranda House, I was in the plays always, etc. Never dreamt that I would be a director, leave alone of film. Like I could have been maybe in stage, directing. I directed a sort of street play when the Delhi riots broke out in Delhi. We did a street play from the Miranda House Dramatic Society. We took it all around the city, things like that. So how did that film journey begin? It was just like a really
almost. We were in school, Shonali, we all wanted to become teachers like Mrs. Chinoy. Am I right?
I wanted to be Mrs. Chinoy. I wanted to be.
I think so. Yes.
My experience. Did you want to be a teacher?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like her.
My class 5 class teacher also. Anna Kundu, Barbara Stewart, Australia.
Correct. Yes.
All these teachers. It was just I wanted to be a teacher. Without question, I wanted to be a teacher. And so after doing my history honors bachelor degree at Miranda House, I wanted to teach. I would have gone to GNU to teach political science. But instead, my path changed when my mother died. When I lost my mother tragically, I was in my final year at Miranda House. And it was accidental negligence on the part of Nanavati Hospital.
Nanavati Hospital,
yes. And so I was so angry with the system, and I had this scholarship to go to America and study. And why had I even applied to America? Like I had fallen madly in love with this woman who had come from Berkeley, who was another student at MH at the time, Cheryl. Miranda House, not Miranda Hall. Miranda House, Delhi University. So I was very madly in love with her. was a secret because at that time it was sort of, I was not brave enough to be out actually. It's amazing for me to think that I was not brave. Like I think I'm a brave person. And I just think that what a stigma it is to be bisexual or gay in this country, that you feel like as a 19-year-old, you can't come out even to your peers. In fact, probably I would have come out more easily to my mother than to my peers. I just didn't know like how my peers would react, which is horrible. Bottom line is I was madly in love with Cheryl. My mother dies, but I would never have gone to America. I would have done my PhD and been a teacher. But when my mother died, the combination of everything, and I got the scholarship, I just wanted to go to America and find Cheryl and have.
I think there's a network issue, Shonali, in your place.
Oh, have you lost me?
Yeah, I think there's a network issue. Yeah, we're back. We're back.
I'm back. Sorry, I was in the middle of my dramatic adventures with love. So I landed up in Berkeley. Cheryl had moved on to an Indian man, which a man, and then subsequently 10 years down the line realized that an innocent Indian girl who didn't know anything about being gay. It's just shocking that in Loreto House growing up, I don't know what happened when you people went off to La Martiniers, and half of the study group is from La Martiniers, which we used to call La Farts, if you recall. As they call them. I don't know if the La Farts were more cool than us and were cool about being gay and stuff. In Loreto, we were constantly having crushes on girls. In class 7, I fell down the stairs because Devika Patankar, Paddy walked by and I had a big crush on her. But the thing is, we didn't think that we're gay. It's just like you have crushes on girls. You don't think anything.
Of course.
It's not astounding to me, the lack of sort of education in these matters of sexuality. Bottom line is, Cheryl later had this innocent Loreto convent girl who, made her understand that it's okay to be gay because she was Christian and she was like, I can't be gay. I can't be gay. And she married a man. And 10 years into a marriage that she's out there, she's protesting, she's with a woman, she has a child, blah, blah. So I too got married. I'm bisexual. I'm not lesbian. I'm bisexual. And I got married and had my children. When I went to America because of love and death, I didn't think I'd be a filmmaker even then. I'm doing my PhD at Columbia University in political science. It turns out that, the prestigious Ivy League colleges of America are not as good as our academics. That's how I felt, because I had such a powerful, passionate time with my teachers, whether in school or in college. So in college, Miranda department rocked, I really understood things about colonialism because I was interested in modern Indian history, and things like that formed opinions about life and myself and our country in college, which also framed me as being an activist. And that's entirely from the kind of, teaching and enlightenment you get from your teachers and history. So I
want to just take you back to your Miranda House days also, because like you correctly said, you were a student secretary at that point also over there?
I lost the election. It was appalling by some 200 votes to the Congress candidate. I was the SFI candidate. And we wept and wept. Like, we just wept. We ran back to the hostel room weeping. And I lost because basically it was a pernicious attack on who I am as a woman, because, in the kind of positions I took, and they took this whole conservative traditional thing of that, this is not the way Mirandian women should be, etc. But anyway, I lost that election, but I was very much in the forefront of students.
Yes, I remember you were in the debate society, right?
I was the president of the Drama and Debating Society, and but I was leading the lots of student unrest. I led the whole of Delhi University against the vice chancellor on something. So all this unrest that are happening today, it just feels so at home for me, because that's why
it was a very interesting time in I think in student history also, because we had the Mandal Commission also at that time, and we had so many things that happened. We had the anti-Sikh riots also, which you later made a film about. And so many different
Bhopal
things.
Also happened in 1984. We had Bhopal happen and
Bhopal happened. Yes, correct.
And both really impacted me and made me later in cinema. I did the 84 genocide. But to jump back to America and how I became a film, essentially from filmmaker. So Columbia University turned out to not be that bastion of academia that I dreamt about, that maybe JNU would have been for me. And what I mean by that is it ceased to be inspiring and exciting intellectually. And so I'm doing political science, looking at modern India development. And their notion of development is this very attitudinal thing towards the third world. It's the first world looking at the third world, that kind of gaze, which means that when suppose I presented a paper, say, on the Telangana movement of peasants uprising or Naxalbari, and I'm doing it as an activist looking at these things and to bring about change in present day India. I'm talking about Naxalbari and Telangana. Coincidentally, I wrote those papers in the early 1980s. Look at our absolutely inspiring farmers movement today. So things haven't changed. So I'm looking exactly from that perspective. You need this kind of present day farmers movement in our country. And this is what I'm writing my paper about, and the professors are just like, interesting. So when Americans say interesting, many of you may have also studied in America, that's a complete put down, that's rude. They don't mean that you're interesting. They're just like, okay, this is not it. And I just found it very stultifying. So after finishing my master's, I did a 6-week course at NYU in film and video. And it's sort of funny why it even shows that, because my Mashi and Misho, Radhika and Pronoy Roy, had come across at that time to do a 6-week course at NYU themselves before starting World This Week, which was such a amazing premiere program at its time in India. And so I acted in my Mashi's exercise. And in doing that, I was just like, seems to be interesting what's happening on the other side of the camera, more interesting than what's happening on this side of the camera. So I saved up my babysitting money of that year, paid a princely sum of $5 an hour, and $1 for the subway fare, $2 extra, which I then saved. Like I would walk the 30 blocks there and back from my babysitting to save that $2. So I saved the money, did the course, and I was like, wow, I love this, because then I am engaging society in a creative way. So it sort of brought my political and creative energies together in a way that I had never thought of. So dumb, but I had never thought of that. And so I applied to film school at UCLA. And again, had I not got a scholarship to go there, I would have come back to India and been Mrs. Chinoy. Wonderful. I must say, I keep saying this, but when I gave one, so she's come to so many, even, my teachers at every institution I just love, and they've come to these talks. And when I say that, they were like, thank God this happened. And you became a teacher in a different way by getting into cinema and not being a teacher. But I love my teachers. I still might end up teaching. But that is how I became a film director, Diya. Long answer to your question. This is how I ended up.
So tell us about UCLA, your stint at UCLA. What was that like?
UCLA. So I when I was 29 when I joined there, which was late because people were going there, even though it's an MFA in film directing. People were, pretty young. Most people were younger than me, and 50% young males. So the funny thing was, in my first year at film school, I got pregnant, and Ishan. And so even through my pregnancy, it was really fun because there had never, ever in the history of this really big film school, which has had many years of history, been a female filmmaker who had a baby during film school. So my pregnancy itself was an object of much curiosity and drama. So, for instance, in the middle of a class, I need to throw up. The whole class would stop, and everything flutter around me. There were 20 students in the class, and the professor got so much attention. Which if you were just in some women's thing, who would care in India or something, right? It's just part of the course that you're going to throw up in your first time. Anyway, then when the baby was born, when Ishan was born, Ishan was just 2 weeks when I had to come back to work because I was on a TA ship and I would have lost it if I had, stayed.
In 2 weeks you went back, is it? You went back
2
to
weeks
work?
I went back. 2 weeks I go back. So I'm a TA. At two funny incidents I'll tell you. So I'm a TA, and so one thing is I was directing a television thing, and so I have a male technical director on one side, a male assistant director on the other side. It's a camera there's a glass thing in front of me, and I can see the actors in front, and I'm calling out to the cameras with my headphones on. I'm like, ready to roll camera two. And in the middle of that, just before I'm saying ready, my sister Diya Bose was also in film school at the time with me, a year younger. She would take Ishan because no money for babysitting. Ishan was with us the whole time, and people would have to take care of him. So she had rushed him in, and I just grabbed him. I just lifted my top like that and put the baby on the boob. And I'm doing that. I'm saying, ready to roll camera two, go camera two. Frozen silence. And I turn around and look, everybody's just frozen because it's these young guys in their 20s. They've never seen a woman breastfeed.
Absolutely, yeah.
We see women breastfeed, working class women breastfeed. Of course, upper middle class, they don't breastfeed in public. I don't know why, it's foolish. I breastfeed in public. But people don't, right? But we've seen it. Like, we are used to it as Indians. Americans
were used to it, yeah.
It was horrifying. They were just frozen and Isha going, anyway, so the things, or like I'm in the middle of teaing and I have to just put the baby down, clean his bottom and his potty and all that. And it's just like a fascinating thing that happened in film school. That's how film school was for me, because I was a mother with a baby, and then I got pregnant with Divan in my final year. And I was trying to make my films with everybody else who was single and free, and so it was very, very tough, very tough. It sounds all
And you finished off with a documentary then, I think, Lifting the Veil, is it?
Lifting the Veil was my thesis documentary. This is also a funny story. Lifting the Veil is my thesis documentary, and it really was it was lifting the veil of the ignorance that, who is India for? So we were in the 50th year of independence, it was 1997. And the thesis was that, who is India for? So I was, at that time, liberalization and privatization had just come to the country. And these economic policies were certainly not going to make things better for the majority of the people. So it was really looking at that, interviewing people from all classes of society. And I remember this so clearly, so many people from the middle class, like say Calcutta people saying things like, we can't even eat fish every day anymore because there was such a steep price rise. That's all there in the documentary. Anyway, so I make that documentary and I'm pregnant. And I'm like, oh, I have to screen this documentary. I have a screening set up at the, India. I think India Habitat was not exactly set up then, but one of those, in Delhi. Big screening with, big screening means some 1,000 people. But I'm like, this is the premiere of my film. I have to be there. I'm 7 months pregnant. And the lawyer begged me and said, no, please just have the baby so that he's born as a US citizen and then you can go. I said, are you kidding? Like US citizen, I don't care about US citizenship. I need to be there for my documentary screening. So I go back and have the screening of the documentary, and as a result, Vivan is born in India instead of being born in America. And many I had to struggle with that whole thing because, I had to figure out, getting his US citizenship because I had given birth to him in India. So it was very, very exciting though, that I felt I was driven by issues even as I was pursuing creative things in cinema. So I continued my rebel days of Miranda House while I was at Columbia and UCLA.
Columbia. And then how did Amu happen then? Because that was a Herculean job that you did, a movie like that. Why not a documentary? Why Amu? And tell us about it.
Yeah. So then Lifting the Veil happened, and then I stayed on 6 months with Vivan in India with Isha and Vivan, and then I come back to America, and I realized the huge, and many of you may have faced that who are listening, that when you live in America, and if like my mother had died and my mother-in-law could not come out all. She was a teacher. She couldn't just come and be living there. She had her own life. If you don't have grandparents, you don't have, support system, like it is just a full-time job to have, children, 2 small children to raise. If you don't have the didis and the nannies, etc., right? Can't afford. So that itself just took up the next 2 years. The next 2 years went just in raising the children. And so pretty much they were, it was only when like the little one was 2. So there was 2 and 6. So many years passed before I even felt I could try to make a film. And as soon as I thought about that, the very first idea that came to me was about 1984 genocide. As I said, it had made a huge mark on me, as had Bhopal, when film had been made on Bhopal already, Bhopal Express, lovely film. And so I felt very strongly that there hasn't been an understanding of this genocide. It was thought of as a riot between Hindus and Sikhs. It was thought to just be connected with Mrs. Gandhi's assassination. The absolute enormous trauma and tragedy that was done in the capital city is not known. And therefore, if I make it as a documentary, it will be people like me, activists, or people who know what happened, and the Sikh community will watch it. My idea was I need to reach that section of population who don't know anything about 84. So that was the idea, and therefore it had to be a feature film. And therefore my goal was I need to make an entertaining, dramatic feature. I hate, and I think that's where I really defined my cinema, that even if I care about an issue, even if it's gender, whatever it is, don't be on the nose with it. Don't hit your audience on the nose with it. Don't come across as if you have a message. Bury the message really deep. It should be all about story. It should be about your character. And so that was the whole goal with Amu. And I remember when I was in film school making short films, I was much more blunt. And one of my professors, he was like, it's not you're standing on a soapbox. This is a film. It's not standing on a soapbox. And I was so irritated with him then at UCLA, and I so blessed him later because I understood that in Amu. And I had a reading once for all my batch at UCLA because they're really super smart, etc. But they were all very apolitical. And I faced this when I was in film school, where they were also saying that, your short films are soapbox and it's too political. So they read the script, which is a really political script. But they read it, and they were like, "You've changed. There's no politics. You need to come out more clearly to, show the issue." And I was so happy. I was like, yes, I achieved that goal, because they don't see how skillfully I've embedded my politics.
Absolutely, yes.
You're sort of
there's very little available about that phase, So this is actually, you've told that phase of history through a human story. And I think for whoever is watching us today and who hasn't watched the film, you must watch Amu. It is so beautifully handled. So tell me about the casting.
And let me just plug it. It's on Mubi. If you guys don't have Mubi, Mubi is this app where you can watch really fabulous films. Way cheaper than Netflix and all, where they showcase very different kind of cinema that you won't have normal access to, like on Netflix and Amazon Prime. It's called Mubi. So Amu is on Mubi because it's not on the other two platforms.
And your casting was on point. So tell us about that. How did Konkana come into the film? It's a very nice story, so I want you to share that.
So this film is
I think there's a connectivity issue again.
I'm wondering if I should change location if you're having this issue. I'll change if it happens again. Am I okay now?
Now we're fine. Yeah, we're fine. Yeah.
So I had grown up, at the privilege of growing up with Apurna Mashi living in New Alipur as one of our neighbors, and her daughter Donna used to come play with me all the time and us in their house, and she just adored me when I was a kid. So now I felt like, Apurna Mashi would be great as being the role of the mother. So I had gone to Kolkata anyway to see Ma Baba, my in-laws, and I went over and met her. And I narrated the whole thing to her. And she said, "Na re, ami na nijer direction korchi ekhon." And, so I'm not taking any roles in acting. But who's playing Kaju, the daughter? I said, "No, Apurna, I'm casting in America for that, because the character is Indian American. And I feel really for somebody to pull off being Indian American, the body language, the accent, it's somebody who's born and grown up in America. They're no different than Americans except they're brown. So I don't feel an Indian can really pull that off." And Konkona passed by and she said, "Na re, amar me na Konkona, Coco, you've not met her, the younger one. She's very good at accents." So in my heart, I was like, this is so embarrassing. I was like, "Thank you, Apurna Mashi," and I left. Okay, and I was just like mortified. I was like, "Oh my God, you pushing your doors for me? Are you kidding me?" So then I leave. Okay, 6 months passed, and I could only come and do stuff in India in the children's summer vacation, because now they're going to school. So I couldn't come during the school term. So my film life could only progress Christmas holidays and summer holidays. This Christmas that I met her in Calcutta. Now I come back June, July, August, and I'm in Delhi. And I go to watch Mr. and Mrs. Iyer that had just released. And I watch Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, for those of you who haven't seen this lovely film that Apurna Sen directed.
Absolutely.
Konkona is playing the role of a middle-class Tamilian with berries, and any real middle-class Tamilian could have played that role. I mean, it is absolutely on point, in the skin of a character of a Tamilian. So I come out from the parking lot, I call her and I say, "Apurna Mashi, please give me Konkona's number." And so I needed to cast Coco. Actually, I called her to Delhi and I still did an audition for her. She was in Delhi. She had just graduated Delhi University, St. Stephen's. She was in Delhi at the time at her dad's place, actually. And I did audition her. So she was still new. And so she auditioned for me, and I was like, yeah, she can do it. And I told her that you have to come to America and spend some time there with me. And so she came and lived at my house, and then I would take her to these sort of like cool Indian American young people that I knew, like have her hang out with them. Because what I realized about her, and this is the same case with Kalki also for Margarita with the Straw, they are actors who can really watch people and pick up nuances of nuances of body language. And then with Coco, I also gave her these tapes which, I don't know if you're aware, but many immigrants who go to America, and certainly Indians, and they don't want an accented Indian accent thing, so they learn how to speak English with an American accent.
Okay.
Are you having trouble with my sound?
Yeah, well, it's coming and going. Now you're back again now, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to shift location when you ask me the next question, but that is what happened with Coco.
Okay, so that's what happened. And what about the funding? How it must have been very difficult. Your first movie, I know that you used the Tooth Fairy money, am I right? To start off?
So it was very difficult. One sec. I'm sorry. I'm sorry in the middle of this.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine because we can hear you well. So.
We did do a test, lady study group. We did do a test and it all worked. And so I don't know what happened just now, but let's see if it works a bit off here. All right. No money. Are you making a film on a genocide? Absolutely no money. Nobody wanted to touch it with a barge pole. And so the first money I got was from my sister, who gave me I think $1,000. Yeah, $1,000. And my children, Vivan gave me $1.
Yes.
His Tooth Fairy money.
Tooth Fairy money, yes.
He gave me $11 of his saving money. And Bedo Broto, my ex-husband, gave me a big chunk of money, and I'll be always indebted for him. And that shows his own commitment to the cause and everything, that really was powerful in getting the whole journey started, because then some amount of money. And another person, Bonnie Ghosh, my brother, also from Kolkata, was living in Australia at the time. He matched the amount Bedo gave. So we had $100,000, 111, if I count the children's money, 100,000 plus $11. And that was the start. And with that, I just acted as the entire money that I needed. I needed $500,000, 500,000. And I just pretended I had it all, and just slowly found that money from people, who just gave money like that. Mostly the remaining money came from people in the Sikh community, but just giving like 10,000, 5,000, 20, very, very hard. Therefore, it took about 3 years to raise all of the money.
And even your family scenes, I think you used a lot of your own family members in your casting, in the family, amongst the different family members.
Well, the lead role was played by my Mashi Kea, by my Mashi Brinda, to play the role of Kea that I had approached Apurna Mashi on. So she had actually, given the script to Shabana Azmi without asking me. They were both in the Rajya Sabha at the time. And Shabana was really keen to do it. But I had no money to give Shabana even a penny, and I was also really keen to get Brinda for that, but I genuinely didn't have money, and Shabana was amazing, and she was ready to just do it for a very small amount. But literally this film had to be made by paying anyone any money, actually doing it for free. And I also had the conviction that I wanted Brinda to do it. And she was brilliant in it. My mother had said, who was a stage actor, that Brinda was the real acting talent of the family. She, became a communist, and so she didn't act. And so I knew that she's a brilliant actor. So after the film was released, Nasiruddin Shah said it was the best performance of any Indian female actor he had ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So there was a big gap then, Shonali, after that. And I think you went through a difficult phase yourself. And then finally, how did Margarita come about, the story of Margarita? How did that happen?
Sorry, is my sound better? Because I'm going on moving around the house now.
I think this is fine now. I think we're fine. I'm just checking with my tech guys also saying this is fine.
All right.
He's also on.
Just let me know if I have to move again.
Yeah, so, I think you're fine now.
Yeah. So Margarita with a straw. So in 2010, this sort of life-changing thing happened in my life, where my son Ishan, who was 16 at the time, died. And one of the things I want to say that happened in my life is how, in a very bizarre way, my film, what has been in my films and what has been in my real life have, in a very strange way, intersected. Like, so to give you the specific example that Amu, I made a film in which women saw their sons and fathers and husbands on fire. They saw that sight, and my film was about that, right? not going into detail on that, but that is the trauma that these women
Correct,
suffered.
correct.
And
Yes,
first time
yes. Which
being
is
a
what
widow.
happened at that time. Yes.
Right. So 10,000 people in the capital city, and they were put on fire. That I couldn't imagine at the time that how must it feel. And I had to spend a lot of time with widows before making that film and even after making it, because it was actually a very healing film for women. The sequel globally. I had global screenings of Amu everywhere, especially. And I experienced that. But it was not something that I could even relate to, like something so horrific happening to watch your kid on fire. And then, so I made this film, right, in which that is what my scene is. And then, so Amu is 2004, and then 2010, before I just get to Ishan, 2009, we're doing Chittagong. Vedobroto is directing Chittagong, my ex-husband. And there was a scene in there that he needed an actor to just do a small thing where the actor had to just run to her 16-year-old revolutionary son's dead body that the British police had killed and cry. And for such a small role at that time, and we're shooting in a place called Lataguri, we couldn't really find some actor. And he was an actor, and he asked me to do that. I was working on his film with him, and so I did that. And I remember when I was in the makeup van, and I was thinking about it, and the thought struck me that what if Ishan died? Like, how would I feel? And I just became a wreck, and I was like, oh my God, I won't be able to act if I think that my child, if Ishan has died, I won't be able to act because go to such pieces. And so then I was like, I'll just think of my mother, because that's safer, that's more distant, because she had really died and there's some distance now from her death. And I was like, I'll think of that, because suddenly you have to the camera's rolling and you have to just suddenly start weeping. You need a trigger. So I had to just put that out of my head. But imagine, I had to act out a scene of her mother running to her 16-year-old dead body. And 4 months later, 4 months after I did that scene, this happened. And how did it happen? Ishan's body accidentally caught on fire. It was an accident. And so this thing, that the two films I had just done prior, Amu and Chittagong, both were sort of connected with this. So that happened with Ishan. And then he died September. So in January 20th was his birthday. So I was determined that I am going to celebrate my boy's birthday, with as much joy as if he was really here. And so we did that. We had a beautiful day together, celebrated him. And that night I felt so happy and at peace that I picked up a pen and I started writing. And I wrote for 30 days straight. And that was the very first draft of Margarita with a Straw. And just a month before his death, because that idea had been brewing with me, I had told him that, I'm making a film, which is tentatively called I Have Me. And it's sort of based on your Mashi Malini, who has cerebral palsy, and, he knows her very well, and she has acute cerebral palsy. And it's loosely based on her. And I said, do you know what it means, I have me? I said, you see, because for me, so late in my life, I was 45 at the time, I said, late in my life, I finally done the self-work to sort of feel that I have myself, that I'm not needy and dependent on other people, that I can fill myself with love, and I am here for myself. I am here for myself. So I think when my mother died, I went through an acute phase of dependency. Like my sister and husband, my sister lived with us. I could never even be alone. Like if one of them was out of town, the other had to not go out. I mean, that is how dependent I was in my, in my 20s post my mother's death, because I had not done the essential work of grief work. So that deep wound still remained within me. So with Ishan, I had this joyous thing, and I said, hi, I have me, and he looked at me and he said, Mama, I totally get what you mean, because I have me too. And I really saw that, and I felt so proud that I could just see he was shining in his own skin. He had himself. I got that. And so Margarita with a Straw is really about that. It's really about a person going through this journey to find themselves, to love and accept themselves. And for me, that is the biggest thing, really, that can you learn to love and accept yourself. And what happened for me with this journey that I was anyway on with is that with his death, he just transformed me and transformed my life, So at the time of his death, when he died, so on the day of his funeral, I was looking at this beautiful smiling picture of him, and I was looking at it, and very clearly he said, Mama, I didn't need to be on earth anymore. And when he said that sentence, I got goosebumps all over my body, and I immediately knew that it just changed everything. I understood that you only live as long as your soul needs you to live. You don't have to live beyond that. Like, he just changed my whole understanding. And I had a physical feeling and sensation in my body that I recognized. And the reason I recognized it is when my mother died, when I was 21, the same thing happened to me, but I turned my back on it because I didn't believe in it and I didn't understand it. So with her, it happened when we were taking the ashes out. We were lucky enough to get a Navy boat. We were in Bombay and we were going across deep into the ocean. And just at the time that we were putting the ashes out, a Pishi of mine, my father's sister, who is no longer here on earth anymore, Meeta Nandi, Baby P, I called her, she was singing Ave Maria. I remember that because this is important. She was singing Ave Maria. And I looked across and I saw my mother standing on the ocean in a white sari with a lal border and her big red teeth. She always had a big red teeth and her arms.
Yes.
You remember the big teeth. And I felt an energy and lightness from head to toe, just a shivering in my body. And then I believed it for 3 days and I just felt that. But then, I just, in my 20s, and then I think meeting, Bedo also, I'm not blaming him, but I'm just saying my own thinking, and he sort of supported my own thinking that, this is not true. It was sort of your emotional imagination, that made that happen. I'm going to switch back to the other room if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So I had that experience, and I turned my back on this enormous spiritual finding that I had, at that time. And so when Ishan said that sentence to me, and I experienced the thrill from head to toe, I knew that I'm hearing my son's voice. I knew that this is what is happening, that this is not my fevered imagination, that Mama did come and show herself to me, and Ishan did speak to me. And in Ishan saying that I didn't have to be on earth anymore, it was life-changing, because that, okay, you don't have to be, 99. You can be 16 and die, but your soul has lived its entire wisdom of its life in its body. It doesn't need to be here longer. So that was amazing. And then, just to say one more spiritual thing, at the funeral, what was fabulous is, that's why I'm just like, I hope, I live in India the rest of my life. But the only reason I want to die in LA is because it's really fabulous compared to our crematoriums. It is just beautiful. So there's this absolutely fabulous crematorium. It's so dignified and beautiful. And there were about a couple of hundred people had come, his teachers, everything. I had gone, I was in a vibrant red sari, and that's why in the sky is pink. I have Priyanka wearing vibrant pink at the funeral, directly from my experience. And I was like a hostess at a party because I was shining with this light and energy. And I'm thinking people must have thought that I'm mad, and they must have thought that, oh, ho, ho, it hasn't struck her. But
I think there's a network issue again, Shonali.
Yeah, I saw it come back now.
Back now.
So I had that same feeling of euphoria now as I had when Mama went. And I recognized the euphoria. And so I'm experiencing this euphoria. And I spoke at the very end of the last person to speak. And my Mesho Pronoy said to me afterwards, he said, it was so dark and heavy in the room before, because people were breaking down. It's like children speaking, and the teachers were a wreck. They couldn't understand a 16-year-old going. And, other mothers who are there are having horrifying thoughts, as all of you must have had, as my friend, that, you immediately think that, oh my God, it had to be your kid. I mean, it's standard. I know what all my friends went through.
Yes.
It's very tough for people who are my age and my peers, and what they must have felt and gone through. But anyway, so Daju said, I call him Daju, he said that, like, you just changed the energy in the room. And I said, it was not me, it was Ishan. Because basically it was Ishan guiding me. He gave me the light and energy and just joy. And I spoke from that place of joy at my son's funeral, this is not a memorial meeting. We put the body in, in that hall. This is not like 1 week later you're having a memorial. This is, we're putting the body in, press the button to cremate, and the speaking happens. And so I came out, and it was like a party atmosphere. Everybody was feeling that joy and energy, which is remarkable. And at this, and I'm going to take a little walk to show you one more thing, because what happened is, so a Hungarian film school, somebody I went to film school with, she said that, my 3-year-old said, Mama, don't cry, because he's a firefly right by her face. and she gave me this little firefly locket, and I keep it with me at all times. At the same funeral, Christina Maruda, the head of the Indian Film Festival, she brought me a framed painting. And I said, "What is this, Christina?" And she said, at our very first film festival, um, uh, uh, Ishan was in the children's art competition. I said, "Yeah, but he was 7 years old and he didn't even come fourth or fifth." I know, we kept it. And I came here because I want to show you. So she gave me this, okay? And this is the Indian Film Festival. I don't know if you can read that title. The Indian Film Festival gave title, which was The Story of a Firefly. And so Ishan did all these little childlike things as a 7-year-old of a firefly for his mother to find 8 years later. And this firefly locket was given to me by the 3-year-old, which I always wear. But I was wearing this fancy necklace for the ladies study group, so I took it off because I thought that. But imagine that. Okay, and the firefly thing doesn't end there. I had so many things with the firefly. So 4 years later, I was in India. I went on a trip in Lonavala for I was 49 and I went for a little trip there, and I do my yoga out in nature, and I was doing my yoga and I told Ishan, I talked to him in the sky all the time. I said, "Ishan, please give me a sign that you're with me today. Come on, give me a sign that you're with me." And I went to sleep that night, and when I woke up, there was a firefly. Like, I woke up at midnight because I had jet lag right above my face, and I felt that energy and goosebumps. And like the whole night, I kept waking up, and it didn't move from my face. It didn't move from my face. Yeah, and I had jet lag, so I kept waking up till the morning. See, so many signs this child has given me. And one more little firefly thing that I recall is that when we were making Sky Spin, it was hilarious because my producers, anytime there would be anything, I was just like, I'm going to ask Ishan and he's going to solve the problem for me so you can chill. And it actually happened. But on this one instance of the firefly, I'm flying to London to shoot, and it was going to be a really tense shoot. We just had 4 days, and Priyanka was getting married. She had her stress, and it was really going to be a difficult shoot. We were so nervous. So I look out at the clouds because I always see him in the clouds. Not really see him, like I like to think he's sitting on the clouds. So I was like, Ishlu, boy, okay, London, be there with me. Just need to be there with me. Just show me that you're with me. I land in Heathrow Airport. I go out and I go into this coffee shop in Heathrow Airport, waiting for the car to come pick me. And there's a singer in Heathrow Airport over there singing. And she had a sign below her, the name of her album, The Story of a Firefly. No, sorry, not the story, The Firefly. Her album, The Firefly. So I was just like, oh my God, you've given me a sign. You're like, mother, you want a sign? Here is a sign. It's an actual sign.
Shonali, this whole section that you've spoken about, it's so empowering. Really, you are amazing. And what you've just said, I think is going to inspire so many of us who are listening to you. You're so spiritually evolved to be able to look at death, in this fashion, and open all our eyes also to the same kind of vision. It's really incredible. Really incredible.
Diya, one thing I'll add is that, see, like the spirituality came from my mother and son. It's nothing great about me. Like, they just came out there and just bombarded me with them so that I can't mistake it. Like, it's so fully, there. But I'll tell you one thing I did do, and nobody, I don't know why, but death is something, everybody listening to me has lost somebody already. Everybody listening. And all of us are going to die, and, all of us are going to lose even closer people than you might have lost already, You are going to, and that's a fact. But we fear it, and we can't talk about it. And then when somebody dies, people come around for a few weeks, and then, you're told, you got to move on. You got to be brave for that person. You got to be brave for your kids, or you got to be brave for your mother, or you got to be brave for X, Y, and Z. This whole thing of being brave, and that is not understood. What does it mean to be brave? I think the way society takes it, being brave is moving on. And the way I take it, what I just did with Ishan, and I just want to say that because that changed my life, not just the spiritual messages that came, but this work. I call it grief work. And the way I came across it was that when my son died, so I had this beautiful spiritual thing, but then, that doesn't mean that you just stay in spiritual bliss. Like, it hits you, right? The darkness hits you.
Of
And I was
course.
like, oh my God. I mean, am I now going to go through, like, one half of my life it was with mother, and now am I going to go through the second half of my life with this wound inside my body, And I was like, God, no, what do I do? So I was like, I just have to do the opposite. All I know is I have the same huge thing happening to me. The center of my life. My mother was the center of my life. My kids are the center of my life. The center of my life has died. What do I do the opposite? What did I learn from that? And so I realized that with Mama, I suppressed the memory. I pushed the pain down. I was that brave person in the typical way of brave. Like, people were like, wow, Shonali is so brave, because I left India and I was in New York by myself. The rest of my family were all together. I didn't have anyone, so I'm out there in America. And I'm brave. I'm a totally normal functioning adult. I'm not boozing. I'm not, on drugs. I'm a functioning adult. I know the wound was inside and how it, manifested itself in different ways, in my life, what that did. So I just knew that I had to do the opposite. I can't suppress. And to give you an example of the suppression was so extreme was that I remember, like, about 9 months after her death in New York, Brooklyn, or, more than that, like 2 years, Sonia Jabbar, she was 2 years senior to us in Loreto. She was there. I was in Kukreja. So there was, Malini courses, all this Loreto gang there. And they were older than me. And I was staying there at that place at that time. And Sonia said, how's Auntie Julie? And I said, she's fine. And I just went to the other room. And then I just broke down weeping. Like, I couldn't even answer the question. I couldn't answer the question. I couldn't engage and say, I just could not. So now, Ishan, guys, and I was like, what is the opposite? The opposite of suppression is to completely embrace. Now, how to embrace? Now, at that time, there's no money to figure therapy. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have, anything, or actually the wherewithal to actually look for online help. I'm sure there is. I just turned to myself. And so I said the opposite is embrace. So what does that mean? And so what I did was that I basically just would sit with my feelings. So I spent 9 months of Ishan's death, that first 9 months. All I did was I was taking care of Vivan, and I was very conscious that I have to be present for my younger child. My older child has gone, and he can't be the center. My grief cannot be the center. My younger child is my center. So bad, but then he's away, he was 13, for long hours in school. So at home, what I would do is I would take the feelings out. So give an example of a dark feeling. A dark feeling is a guilt. Anybody has guilt when somebody dies unnaturally, if it's an accident or suicide, right?
Yes.
Even when somebody dies naturally, you have guilt that, oh, I should have made that phone call. Oh, why didn't I see Mama? You know what I mean? We all just kill ourselves with guilt that I should have done that.
Blame, yes.
I should have done that one extra thing. Guilt is a terrible thing that we hound ourselves with. And so the first thing was, you need to deal with that guilt. Let's face it. Instead of hiding it, you need to face it and just let it come that, oh, okay, so what is it? Oh, you're feeling you couldn't put the fire out. Okay, you weren't capable of putting the fire out. And so I actually did the run of, he ran in swimming pool to put it out himself, and I was trying to beat it out. And I did the run, and it was 36 seconds. And I was like, oh, it was only 36 seconds, whereas it seemed like about 10 minutes in my head. But the point is, even if it was 10 minutes, the point is that I had to take that pain and every day hold it, that I couldn't put it out. I couldn't save my child. And it was terrible, terrible. So you just howl and howl and howl, and then it passes through. And if you don't do that, it is going to hound you for the rest of your life. It is going to be in your body. It's going to have ways to actually make you fall sick, and going to get you in different ways if you leave big pains like this embedded in your body. And so I basically sat with the pain of, say, guilt or whatever it is, that, oh, my son won't go to college, how he was excited, he won't do all the things my friends' kids are going to do, all those things, right? Take all the painful feelings and look at them and make friends with them. Make friends with the pain and say, okay. No, so for instance, one example is like Diwali, and that made me laugh. So in Diwali, I started weeping that it's Diwali, and now all three of us and four of us, me too also, we used to all play cards. And then as I'm crying, I started laughing because I was like, oh God, but it was horrible. Because in India, I had such fabulous Diwali, especially in Kolkata, was the best Diwalis of my life, and we had very little money with the firecrackers, but we had wonderful Marwari neighbors. And so we finished our firecrackers and we would go. And they were all older, so we would play the Marwari neighbors' ka crackers. And this was I loved Diwali and Holi in Kolkata. And I was, recreate that in America. Ghastly. I know many of you, have to bring up your children in America when you're trying to relive this whole Indian fantasy of your own in America, and the kids are just like, okay, please, like, do we have to wear kurta pajama today and eat puri aloo? And like, I was just like, oh my God, it was a nightmare. Diwali was just like this. It was just like a forced thing. So I'm like, this is so silly. This is from that hallmark sentimentality that comes to you that, oh, it's Diwali, mera bachcha nahi hai, mere saath mar gaya. It's just like, I started laughing. So I took the melodrama of me, crying, and I just started laughing because that is so silly. I was like, are you kidding to miss him on Diwali when it was a pain in the ass to have Diwali with him, So,
but then you also got busy with making your film, right, Margarita? So, I mean, that process possibly also helped.
No, I had not started Margarita then. I'm talking about the first 9 months since Ishan.
First 9 months, okay.
Not started at all. Okay. I wrote it in the January. I wrote the script, but I had not at all even. I was dealing with it. I was like, this is my 1-point agenda: raising Vivan and grief work. There's no way to start making a film. So
how long did you take to start working?
I'm very keen to get to the film. I'm going to get to it. I promise. I know you're just like, okay, she's just gone off on a tangent about I'll get there. And she's like, we need to keep it light. We need to keep it light. Don't be heavy. I get it. They will bless you because nobody talks about grief work. I just have to finish up this point. So what happened, my darling, is that I went at the end of 9 months to a meditation retreat in Northern California. In fact, I think my cousin Leela Prashad, also Loretta Girl, is listening in right now. And
she's with us just now.
She picked me up because it was Shalina Mahajan, my best friend. We cut our veins and put blood together in class 5. And I think Shumuna or somebody went and tattletaled and we were sent to the bathroom. Mahajan might be listening to, but Shalina dropped me and Leela picked me, and it was huge because it was so scary because on 10-day Vipassana, and I had never meditated ever in my life. So I'm going for a 10-day Vipassana from not meditating and think your cell phone is going to be taken away. And so till that point, my family who were in India were in touch with me by phone. They were in touch with my friends everywhere around the globe. So much love I got from all of you on Facebook and in messages. I got so much love, and suddenly I'm going to be alone. And I was like, you know what? What's the worst thing that'll happen? Like, I'll cry and cry. What's the big deal? I'm going to do this. So in that 10-day Vipassana, we are all called. There's about a few hundred people. Beautiful Vipassana this was. And I found, wow, everybody around me is silently crying with whatever's going on. And like I was filled with light and joy. I just had a joyous Vipassana for the 10 days. And then you're not allowed to speak the whole time. And at the end, you can speak. Everybody spoke about the experience. And so I spoke about my experience. I said, I just felt joy, looking at everybody. And I saw Ishan actually in nature and in everyone. I saw Ishan in everywhere. So then, and I was just saying that, it's been 9 months. So the Buddhist teacher there, and I didn't ever, I'm not good, I just studied it in school. It's not that I was trying to be Buddhist or anything. She said this is a core teaching of Buddhism. What happened is that in these 9 months, and it's so interesting, the 9-month period, because that's 9 months is how you have a baby in your womb. Yes. And when you're carrying a baby, I think for a woman, when you're carrying a baby, that is the time that you deeply connect with the baby, like, and your body, and really connect with your body. You understand what you should eat, what you should not eat, etc. Right? And so for the 9 months, just the way I cradled Ishan when he was in my womb, I cradled Ishan's death that way, the same way. And what she said is, when you embrace grief and pain, you transcend it. So that is what happened. I see that it's 3 minutes to 6. We can go a little longer. I hope we're going to cut.
Of course we can. Not at all. We're not
all right.
We have lots to talk about.
Okay, so I will now move on to Margarita with the straw. So basically, Margarita didn't heal me. I did my grief work. And many people have asked me this, that did you heal because you did a film about death? And in Margarita, mother dies, and in Sky is Pink, the child dies. And I was like, no. They were joyous experiences making these films, because actually it's that to try to do it in that secondary way, that through your work, maybe it works, but it doesn't really work in a deep way. In a deep way, you have to really take it on. You have to take on the pain and live with it. You will transcend it. So that transcendence happened for me, which is how she explained it. And then I came back to live in India, and I started Margarita with a Straw. And it was a joyous experience. Margarita with a Straw and The Sky is Pink. The Sky is Pink was the pinnacle of being a joyous experience, which was directly to do, with the child's death. And amazingly, like The Sky is Pink, this couple who approached me, they said that, it's an amazing story. Can I jump to that, or you want to?
I want to just ask you one question.
Well, you have anyone bullied you like this, but I've grown up with you, so I can bully you and say
one question on Margarita. I want to ask you, how difficult was it to cast for Laila?
Arey Diya, kahan gayi spirituality or death or deep stuff?
Because I have a surprise for you.
Laila, Kalki,
I have a surprise which I'm going to show you after this. That's why.
Okay, the casting director and who's like my creative partner in life, Nilesh Mania, he said Kalki. I don't think Kalki, but okay, chalo, let's audition her. Call Kalki, audition her. She loved the script. In the audition, I saw a 10-minute jhalak that she could do it. But we still felt, like, let's try to find somebody with a disability, being connected with all the spastic societies in this country. My mother and Mashis, Reena Mashi, Sudha Mashi, all of them founding the Calcutta one, my Pishis. Bottom line is, all India search is done and found, no adult disabled person who can act. In fact, I did meet them, and they were like, you know what, we won't be able to do the sex scenes. And it's so important that you have the sex scene. By being able to, not for physical reasons, they were like, we're from middle class families and we can't come home and you have to have the sex scenes. Like, we just love that. And so that's what the young adult cerebral palsy was saying. And so I was like, okay, we will cast, and let's, Kalki's white, she's from France. I was just like, let's really try to do authentic casting first. But we couldn't. We auditioned 100 people. We couldn't find the person, and nobody gave me that. We have 3 people, but this is why Kalki stood out of the 3. I told them all, this is an exercise where you have to commit to me and I commit to you that we will do this work of you being authentic person with CP. And if at the end of that exercise we fail, I'm not making this film. I, of all people, cannot make a film where the person who is doing cerebral palsy can't do it authentically. It cannot seem, you're inauthentic. And Kalki absolutely agreed. She gave me that commitment and time. Just yesterday, her baby turned 1, who's just like my baby. And I just met her yesterday and went, and I was just like, she is such a courageous girl, because she said, yeah, I agree with you. We put in 3 months work, and after 3 months, if we fail, never mind the work and money that we both have spent and expended, And so she was the one I chose, because she gave me, she didn't just have the 10-minute, 10% jhalak, and the 90% have to come from sweat. And she committed to the 90% of sweat. And we spent 5 months of work for her to give this brilliant performance of Laila.
And I'm going to share something with you now. I have a small photograph or something. Can you just show that to her, please? Can my tech team please show that? Shonali, this is for you, from me.
I think you are a brave filmmaker. You have always chosen subjects which kind of have been left in the dark, or, people are just not willing to talk about. And you go out there with gumption and sometimes anger and some kind of gut-wrenching emotion, unfazed by the fact that society ain't ready to accept this, and you just say, here it is, in a big platter, with happiness, joy, sadness, and music and life and dance all in there. And I think that's really beautiful. Apart from this, I think you're a golden neighbor. It's really great. During the lockdown, it was lovely to have you take care of Sappho, and the kind of joy that you bring to her, and also the joy that you have on your face when you're taking care of her is incredible. You're amazing, Mom. Even with me, I felt like on Margarita with a Straw, sometimes she was my mother, in the way she cared for me, and also in the way how strict she was with me. I remember one day, I went out after shoot hours and I'd put some kajal on, and the next morning I came to set and a little bit of that kajal was still on my face, and she was like, "You haven't taken your makeup off from last night. Where did you go? Are you ready for this?" And I was just like, "Yes, Mama." So she is an incredible woman. Oh, also a fantastic person with physical strength. I am in awe of the fitness routine that she has on a daily basis. It's gobstopping. And somebody who keeps searching, who hasn't stopped looking for answers, for questions also, questions things, and yeah, I think that's the end of my speech. Bye.
Oh my God, Diya! That is the best. I just met her yesterday. She's so
I
cute.
know. And I was so nervous she's going to say something.
That is the best, most beautiful gift you could give me, because then nobody, like, I've never heard any of my actors speak about me like that. That's why I'm crying out of emotion.
Now you know why I was trying to bring you back to the subject of Margarita.
I know.
Only for this reason.
Oh.
And I think that, and the film was really a double whammy, I think, because I think you handled disability, sexuality, brought these subjects out in the open. And today we are also accepting of these subjects. And definitely your movie was one of the reasons, I think. And now I'm going to move quickly to the next subject, which is your Sky is Pink. And the subject of our session today, My Sky is Iridescent. So can you tell me a little bit about that film? How did that subject come to you?
Right. So this is the incredible thing that, so the Margarita with the Straw trailer, when it came out, Amir Khan had loved the cut I showed him, and he loved the film. He said, "I want to support any and every which way." And so he put it on with PK, his own. So when a trailer goes on with a big film, it's seen in thousands of screens everywhere. It gets more visibility. So he did that for Margarita. And so this young girl, Aisha Chaudhary, got to see the trailer. And so she watched that trailer, I believe, like some 30 times, and told her mother, "I hope I live to see this film." And she said that because she, possibly, like, she was in severe losing oxygen by that time, but not in hospital, at home. And then she died pretty much, I believe, 3 weeks or 1 month later after saying the sentence and seeing it. So when the film came out in theaters in April, Aditi and Niren Chaudhary went and saw it in theaters, first day, first show, and fell in love with it. And they saw that at the end of the film, there's a dedication that the filmmaker has made to their own dead son. So they realized, oh my God, this filmmaker also lost her own child. So then, basically, Aditi, through connections, she found my email, and she emailed me and said, "I'd like to talk to you about something." And so we got in this conversation. And it turns out that Aisha's brother's name is Ishan. Like, that's my dead son, Ishan. Yeah, unbelievable. So I just felt at that point, and I was like, I would love to tell the story. And I knew that as a filmmaker, I had reached that point where I was very at peace and at joy with Ishan's death. Like, I celebrate his death day effortlessly now, effortlessly. Like, I just rejoice. I'm not talking about his birthday. I'm saying the death day. The death day is just joyously. And so I was like, I want to sort of try to bring forth, I need to sort of put all that in a film. Like, I'm ready to deal with this of losing a child, because I dealt with losing a mother in 2 films, both in Amu and Margarita with the Straw. So, and then in making it, as I'm writing it and I'm making it, I'm just having a fabulous experience. Like, the title came actually from this a little story that Aditi told me. And because she's focused about Aisha, when she ever told any stories about Ishan, she just said it like very quick. But for me, it was Ishan. The name is Ishan. So anytime she said anything about Ishan, I would listen. And she told this little story that, I was in the hospital in London with my daughter, and I'm talking to my son on the public phone, and he's crying, and he says that, Mama, the sky is pink now, but the teacher said it's blue. So that little story she told me, and I got the idea that the sky is pink because it has so many meanings. And from that, like, for me, I really feel like my sky is, multicolored. It's multicolored with not just all the spirits in the sky. Like, firstly, it's multicolored because really I have deep spiritual connections with spirits. Like, they come to me and they send me messages. It's wonderful. So therefore, I can't say I can't believe that. Like, I know that. So I don't feel sad now when anyone dies. Like, I just feel that their marathon, they finish the marathon, they finish the marathon and their time is over. And it's amazing. And so that's something. But also, I feel my sky is iridescent because on this earth, I'm still in my body. I'm still living my life on this earth. There's Vivan, there's other people, and I just feel joy. That doesn't mean I won't feel sad and pain. And all those are the multiple colors that are there in my life, vibrant, So that's why I said my sky is iridescent. And also I feel as women, like, break barriers, man. Just break the barriers. Like, paint your sky, whatever color you want to paint it. Say, as artists, say today in India where we're saying we're having this kind of censorship or that, and so many, things where you're bound, you're put in boxes. We know that as girls, we're put in boxes. You have to be a certain way. And as women, we're put in boxes still. As we age, we're put in boxes. All these things. And you want to break those boundaries and barriers. You paint your sky, lady study group, whatever color you want to paint it. That's the good thing about the sky.
Very, very well said. And we have something else for you now. Can you please show that to my tech team? Can you show that to her, please?
I will paint if there's any more gifts.
See you virtually.
Oh my God!
So that's Aditya and Naren.
Virtually, I guess you can see us. We can't see you, but we're thinking of you. Have a terrific conversation, as you always do. We want you to know that we love you. We feel deeply connected to you, as you know, and this is a request for you to give us a call.
Yes, do that soon.
We haven't spoken to each other for quite a while. I thought I'll use this opportunity to introduce you to the newest member of our family. You know the entire family so well, but you haven't met this fellow here. His name is Casper Chowdhury. And I really believe that Aisha chose him for us because Casper's mom's name, can you believe it? Which was Aisha's favorite dog, as you know. And Aisha used to say, if everything else fails, then just get a dog. And I think she was absolutely right. We love this fellow. But we love you loads. You're one of our favorite people in the world. We feel so privileged to have come across you and build a relationship and a friendship. And the way in which you've immortalized Aisha in The Sky is Pink is absolutely magical, Shonali. So sending you a few kisses and a big hug.
Hey Shonali, thank you so much for saying Ice Pink. I still get calls from people who really relate to this film, and that's such a testimony to the power of your filmmaking. So thank you so much. Have a great interview. Bye.
Call us soon, okay? Call us. Bye.
That's amazing.
So sweet. That was so sweet, isn't it?
Wow, that's incredible, Diya. Thank you so much.
You are so special to them, and I have a very special question now for you from Naren. And he wants to know, who do you love more, him or Aditi? And he's watching now, so you have to be careful what you answer.
I love them both. I would tell them all are like my children, because the thing is that even though they're older than me, they are the characters. Like when you're writing something, for me, my characters are my children. They're all my babies. So it would be so funny because I'm just like, you guys are my babies. Yeah, I love them both. I love them all. Yeah, I love their family.
And what was it like working with Priyanka and Farhan, top Bollywood actors? What was that experience like?
When I first, so amazingly, because we've been talking about death, this was the biggest thing that made this film strongly, was my complete honesty from the beginning about it. So when I met Priyanka, actually, it was a gift from Ishan, my Ishan. On his birthday and death day, somehow he always gives me gifts, and on my birthday. So it was his birthday. I was in LA. And that's the day I got the text from my producer, Sid Roy Kapoor, saying that PC read the script, loves it, and wants to meet you. And right then I knew this film was happening, like on that day. And it came from Ishan because it came on his birthday. So I immediately flew to New York. And I decided that, you know what, like I really, really want to get this person because actually, like Aditi and Niren were also very keen that we do this film with major star cast so that it has more eyeballs on it. But I was like, I'll make this film even if I can't get major stars. I'll make it as an indie film. I'm committed to making this film. But they wanted it and I was keen. I felt Priyanka actually is perfect casting for Aditi Chaudhary. Like, I really felt she's perfect. So I really wanted it. But I was like, I really want it. But you know what? I'm going to be me.
Oops, I think it's got stuck again. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Back.
Yeah, it'll come back.
Yeah. So I was just myself. And right there, I found that I immediately started talking to her about Ishan. Because that's what's closest to my heart. And that's sort of what the film, that's the underlying thing. Oh, that made such an impact on her. Firstly, she said yes immediately on meeting me. Like, we just hugged and she said yes. But just saying about her first and then Farhan. So that true line in the film for her was about my relationship with my Ishan and my relationship with death and grief. So Pri had just lost her father a few years ago and she had not yet fully healed from it and done the work. And firstly, we talked a lot about death when we were in her van. So instead of, like, we would think that, you know, we'd be talking about light things, etc. Like, who talks about death? But we just dive deep in and be talking about death and stuff like that, because how many people would be able to talk to her with emotional intimacy and honesty about that? And she was hungry for it. So there was one that. But the other thing that I didn't realize is that for her performance, she was using my relationship with my Ishan. And so when we shot the penultimate scene, we ended up, it is the penultimate scene in the film and also in our shoot, which is where they watch the video of Aisha Chaudhary, right? And it's a room filled with people and she break down and cry. She's got her dead daughter speak to her on the video. When we called cut, when I finished that scene, and there are 100 extras in that room shooting in a cafe in Bombay, and you know, there's so many people there, strangers there. And I always go and hug my actors when I call cut. And I went to do that. And in this instant, she couldn't stop weeping. And she kept howling and holding me and saying, thank you for Ishlu. Thank you for Ishlu. I get it now. And then I used to call Ishan Ishlu. Like, Aditi doesn't call her Ishan Ishlu. I called my Ishan Ishlu. Yeah. And she basically was thanking me for the gift of Ishan also, Ishan's death and my relationship with Ishan. And then at that moment, she was really feeling it because after all, she hasn't had children yet. Like, in doing the role, she really understood and felt what it is to lose a child. That's what she was also like weeping about. But basically, because of that honest emotional bond that I formed with PC, I was able to cut through everything else which comes with stardom, you know, and stars, you know, and then she's going to, Nick comes, you know, Nick shows up on set once. It was so cute because they're about to get married and it's all happening in the middle of our film and she's doing a scene where she's crying and suddenly I hear sniffing and there see Nick is crying because she's crying, he started crying, yeah. So there were a lot of these cute things and all, but I immediately formed that emotional bond with her. With Farhan, I was terrified more than with Priyanka because he's a director who I respect. So he's not just an actor like she is, he's a tremendous actor, but he's a tremendous actor and a tremendous director. So I felt that, oh my God, like he's going to be watching me direct and just be judging me. So I was just so like nervous and scared about that. And when he finished reading the script and I met him and he just looked at me humbly and he just had so much vulnerability when he said this. He was just like, I am terrified of doing this. And I'm just putting myself in the palm of your hands. I am terrified that I'll be able to do this role. And so we really formed a really close connection again. He's a father of 2 children. You know, I'm a mother of 2 boys. And so there was that connection immediately of parents, as well as just a complete understanding again, and a really deep emotional connection. When we were shooting the death scene, it was remarkable to me that all my actors, so Zaira Wasim and Rohit had lost his father. Zaira has a nervous breakdown and her body starts shaking. Farhan was thinking of his own daughters, what it was his own daughter who's like Aisha, and he's at the deathbed. Priyanka thinking of her father because she was about to get married. They all wept separately with me and I was just joyous. That morning I woke up and I did a thing with even my crew, because I felt, you know what, actually my crew are also going to find it a heavy day. So I'm the sole person who's finding it a light day, because death days are happy, light days for me. So I'm finding it a light day, but everybody, it's a fictional thing. They're all finding it heavy. Everybody's feeling weepy and scared and nervous. So I really did a calming meditation with my crew. Then with my actors, I was just holding them and making them laugh and just being there for them. But I was just thinking, imagine if I too was a wreck, because I'm also reliving Ishan's death. So this question, when it comes at, are my films therapeutic? If my film was therapeutic, then I would also be a wreck then, because I'm actually then healing by the act of shooting a scene in which a child dies. Whereas I've done that work and I'm just enjoy about it. I love the intricacies of death. I love the little details and how it feels. And there's such a thing about death. I think it's beautiful. And people think I'm mad, but I really think it's beautiful, and I honor it. And I'm not scared by it. You know, that doesn't mean I won't be. When somebody dies tomorrow, I'll be. I'll be comfortable with that, and I'm not scared by it. So it was lovely that I was in that happy place when everyone else was in a sad place, to really be there for them. At the end, they all wrote these beautiful messages to me, that they all went through a massive emotional journey and healed with not just the film, but with my energy. And that's a lovely thing to hear. That was nice.
Shonali, I could just
questions, darling, because Abhi to
I
6:20.
we have just run out of time completely, but I've been going through the questions and trying to incorporate them while I speak.
Acha.
So, but one question, I think the last question we'll ask you is, what's next? Everybody wants to know what's next. So whatever you can share about that, you tell us. Whatever you want to share.
So just now there's one concrete thing, because you're frozen, but I hope I'm not. Am I frozen? I'm good?
No.
So there's one concrete thing, which is I'm one director amongst an anthology of 6 directors, like another, for example, is Vishal Bhattbhat. So it's a really cool group of 6 directors. We're doing an anthology. I can't say anything else about that, but I love it. It's the story that I have. And so I'm going to shoot that in April. So that is going to be on one of the platforms. It'll come out in August. So that's something at least concrete, because it'll be my first shoot since, because pandemic, like one didn't feel one could go shoot. So this is exciting. And so I'm excited about that. That's a definite. And then I wrote a feature script of badass women. Like it's these badass women who sort of like take down the bad guys and do the dishum and everything, like it's kick-ass women who, they are it takes patriarchy and turns it on its head, because it's these women playing these very typical male roles, and they take on the bad guys. There's no heroes come to the rescue. So I love that. Like that's a full-on commercial film. It's out to major A-list stars right now. So let's see.
Wow, lovely. So we have lots to look forward to now. So I'm going to, Shonali, there are just so many things I want to say, and there's so many more questions that I have, but I think we're completely out of time. So I'm now going to have to ask my Vice President to join us. Sumitadi, can you join us, please, on screen? You're on mute, Sumitadi. You're on mute.
She's still on mute.
Sumitadi? Okay. Yeah.
We can't hear you. Do it.
Oh,
you're
still on mute.
You have to show her with your hands. Now she's trying to unmute. There you are. Now we can hear you.
Sumitadi, again, you've gone on to mute. Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, thank you, Shonali, for engaging in a very interesting and engaging conversation with us. Very, very eloquent. Well, the subtle message for us is to live our life to the fullest, so that we do not know which day is our last day. And the philosophy is to have positivity in the face of adversity. We also thank Kalki for expressing her views so very beautifully. And we thank parents of Aisha, Aditi and Noren and their pet dog for their special appearance. Now, congratulations and thank you for directing super films. Thanks for your time. We thank our members and online viewers and the media for support. Now Diya will conclude the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumitadi. And thank you again, Shonali. And a big thank you to all of you who have joined us today. I know we could have just gone on and on, but we are out of time. But I think one thing is clear, the future is definitely female. And we have felt the winds of change, both in the way we look at cinema and in the way we look within ourselves and at our own lives. So, Shonali, we look forward to your next venture. Wish you the very best on it. And to all of you who joined us today, stay safe and remember that we have limitless horizons. So find your own happiness, and we'll see you soon on our next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love
you guys.
Shonali.
Bye.
Thank you so much for doing this.